You're listening to Popcorn and Politics. What's the real deal? Hosted by Audrey Bell Kearney and Derek J. Wilson. Asking the hard-hitting questions you want answers to. From political leaders and political hopefuls from around the world.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Listen, this is a special edition of Popcorn and Politics. I'm your host, Audrey Bell Kearney, and my co-host, Derek J. Wilson. And finally, we have got Gwinnett County Solicitor General Brian Whiteside with us. We've been trying to make this happen since Sunday, y'all. And so here's the thing, never give up. Never give up. Keep it going until it happens. So good morning, Solicitor General. Thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you for being so patient. And it's an honor and a privilege actually to be here. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being here.
we appreciate you being here. We know you got a lot to do, and we won't hold you long, but we know that you're passionate about the job that you do, and you have done a lot of great things since you held this seat. And so we know now you're in you got to fight to defend the seat. But let's just go down a list of some of the things that you've done that I thought were just amazing. So you enacted a program to have defense attorneys available for defendants to make sure that there is a fair and impartial representation and that justice is served immediately. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yes, ma'am.
Educational initiatives of allowing defendants to plead, who plead to receive their GED and high school diploma to give them a second chance at life. That was amazing. And also developed a mask policy to use in court. I mean, you've done so many things, and we really appreciate. I know I've seen you on the news suing people left and right. I just want to say,
deserve to be sued. They deserve to be sued. Yes,
and also, he was the first solicitor in the state to say that they wasn't going to prosecute marijuana until they figure out, the law or the testing, and so. Kudos, he's been a trailblazer. But before we jump into that, how about you explain to our audience exactly what does a solicitor do, and what sets you apart from the district attorney's office?
You took that right out of my head.
Okay. Well, the basic description of the Solicitor General is that we represent misdemeanor cases. Misdemeanor cases can be a dog bite, a dog being loose, from a dog being loose to a vehicular homicide, where basically you're driving a vehicle, you're in public parking lot, and someone walks in front of you, you hit them accidentally, and then that person dies. That's actually a misdemeanor if there's no underlying effect, such as alcohol or drugs. Usually those are misdemeanors because it's an accident. So usually if a person doesn't have a record on that, you just give probation because these things happen. We also do family violence battery. Let's say families get together, or a lot of times, the bad thing about it, the majority of people who are struck are women. The biggest victim in Gwinnett County is a Black woman, a woman of color, or a woman of the Asian faction also. So what happens in those type of incidents, sometimes women don't want to prosecute, and we have to look at the fact that the victim has a say-so. When you look at a lot of these people's records, they have 2 or 3 batteries and other relationships also. So you have to move and make a recommendation that's fair for that victim, because they want to reconcile and help that person, but that person needs to help themselves. If you're battering people 2 or 3 times, different times, then you have no respect for women or men. And so we do batteries, we do simple battery, we do simple assaults. An example of simple assault is what occurred in the Muslim community. People would come in and say derogatory things about Muslims when Donald Trump was in office. So what I did, I issued a notice about the second week we were in office that if anyone would try to intimidate or harm our Muslim community, I was going to recommend they go to jail for a year. I can only recommend these things. And when we talk about first, I'm the only prosecutor ever in the history of America to issue a warning to protect minorities, or really people. What I always do is look at the fact that we have to take action immediately, because you have people historically in America that don't respect other race, colors, and creeds, and they have been able to harm people. Then there's a reaction. So we take simple assault, vehicular accidents. We do vehicular accidents. We do ordinance violations. If people don't clean up their house, if there's hoarding, things like that, we move in for that. That's psychological treatment. People have hoarding issues, usually when some type of traumas happen, your mother passes away. You see a lot of people when they have a strong relationship, like your mom passes away, you're 60 years old, 50, people change totally. They start to buy things, they go eat a lot of sugar, anything to comfort their mind. They might go to the store, buy a lot of little trinkets, or they don't want to throw things away because these things give them safety. You'd be amazed how the mind works under trauma. So what we do is do psychological evaluations for those people also. But ordinance violations, even is the fact that putting all these signs out diminishes your community. Putting signs out get your roof done, and we, basically hit people with ordinances on those type of things because you want your community to look pristine. We had issues where Dollar Store and Dollar Tree, these people throwing garbage away. And people say, "Oh, Mr. Whiteside, he's always suing people. He's always in the news." But Mr. Whiteside goes out and tells people to pick up their garbage too. And I drive out there every day. Every day I'm out here driving. People leave abandoned cars. I'll pull up and say, call the police. I call an investigator. We got an abandoned car. We had one car out in Kroger where the car's out there for 4 days up on blocks. Now that's unsafe.
Wow.
So my job starts from little cars to protecting your constitutional rights and protecting the school board. As we remember, when the minority school board was enacted, all of a sudden there was a lot of hate. And I asked the police department to take steps to protect them. Why don't you have metal detectors? There's consistent threats to these parties. You have noticed that they're going to be harmed, yet there's no metal detection. There's no adequate protection. As you know, they had like 8 officers there at one time. So what happens about the Solicitor General, not only do we do misdemeanors, but see, you have a duty to protect. And by being a lawyer, I'm an adversarial person. So you expand your duty by saying, my duty is to protect. So I can advise you as the Solicitor General that you need to take action to protect these people. That's my constitutional right. I'm emboldened to protect society in Gwinnett County. And one of the ways to protect this society is to protect our school board because they're under threat. So we actually helped and worked with the school board and the school police, and they put in metal detectors. And what occurred was the first thing what happened that when the metal detector came, somebody had scissors, and then there was a disturbance there. So you're actually possibly helping prevent crime. My whole life is about prevention of crime, not treating victims. You don't want a person to become a victim. And we have a victims unit. But see, you want to help that person. Let's say we talk about domestic violence. They come in, say, I've been harmed. You make a recommendation, 30 days in jail. Oh, you shouldn't recommend somebody goes to jail. If you have 3 batteries against 3 separate women and maybe 2 against that party, you have to make a recommendation that that person be treated with psychological care or put in custody because, see, I've raised 2 boys, I raised a daughter. You do a disservice to someone if you don't discipline them. Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe they're never going to get 30 days. They're probably going to get 2 or 3 days. But when you have somebody that has battered someone to the point of basically their eye socket is swollen and their jaw is swollen, but see, the psychological trauma never goes away.
Right.
And what's happening in our society now, if you traumatize and beat someone you're supposed to love, I've been married 45 years. I think you earned that. I'm not giving to you. You earn that. You need to keep your hands off of people. And like I say, the most battered person in Gwinnett County is a Black woman. And we take these things seriously. Well, you look at the biggest victim in Gwinnett is a Black woman, because you talk about victims at Walmart, people steal from them, snatch purchase from them. People have been basically victims of sex offenses. So we even do sexual battery. You see my whole point? We do, statutory rape, where if you're underage, Underage, when you have relationship with a person underage, we prosecute that, and usually there's a 5 year difference on those. So you have somebody that's 16, let's say 15, and you got somebody 20, and they can't consent. But what you do is look at all the facts, and if there's some type of relationship there, you may recommend a diversion where they have to get counseling, because you have to be very careful in these issues. You don't want to put somebody as a sex offender. Okay. Now, but if you have somebody taking advantage of someone, and that person, really wasn't with knowledge doing that, most likely that's going to be moved to a felony. So that's just an encapsulation of what we actually do, misdemeanors. But I've expanded that duty to the protection of our society. When you take an oath to protect, and if you look at the Constitution, we had an issue where we had a Confederate statue, and that caused a lot of disturbances in our community, protests and threats to the community. And I filed a lawsuit against the county to have that removed. And subsequently, our commissioners made a decision to move it because the statute was continuously vandalized. And the state law says a statute cannot be removed until there's some type of harm or for other reasons. Once we saw that harm, we knew constitutionally we could file that motion. So I say to people, when you're going to do your profession, learn the law. Today is I think like about the 27th year I have been an attorney, but every day when I was a young attorney up to about 24 years before I came into this office, I lived in the library. My wife and I have known each other since I've been 5 years old. From the time we were 5 years old, we were always in the library. So all these type of things, know your profession and know the law.
So what do you say about or say to individuals who feel like you have stepped outside the role of a solicitor? They feel like,
Well, I would say they're wrong, because anytime I try to do something, I check the law.
right,
Recently, they passed that House Bill 202, and it basically suppressed voting rights. And there's been a great deal of protest, a great deal of contesting each other, arguing with each other, people coming out potentially violent protests. And one of the things Kemp did was say, and the legislator said, is that when people are voting and they're in a voting area, that they can't hand out water. Well, that's the solicitor's job also, and they can't hand out snacks, because you look at everything constitutionally. I would have to prosecute Derek and Audrey. You see somebody thirsty, you could actually, if you and Derek happen to meet that day, you could hand Derek some water and they could arrest you. Simply with an analysis or comparison, you're in Walgreens eating a hot dog and bam, they take you out. See, these are the same type of matters that were never actual law. They were enforcement of prejudicial actions to stop minorities.
right,
And you're on a bus and my feet hurt. Well, you're arrested, hurt feet while black. You got hurt feet while black. So you look at the law. See, this is the approach somebody should have taken before. You give somebody some water, you don't have an intent to commit a crime. Every crime has to have an intentional act. So I filed a lawsuit against them and said that I'm not going to enforce that, because you have to have an intentional act to commit a crime. It is not intentional to commit a crime. So that's not going to be enforced. That's another issue I took. They talking about marijuana. When we came in on this thing with marijuana, they had basically legalized hemp. Scientifically, there was no test that could prove the difference between them. Where, and this was happening in Florida and about 7 other states too. And I basically said when I came in, well, I can't constitutionally prove what the difference is, because they didn't even have a test. It would be unfair to arrest somebody and you could not prove that. That's unconstitutional. It's unethical. So I was really the first prosecutor in the country that didn't enforce that, and people were actually happy. Other prosecutors, at least 7 other states, got in contact with us, like Tennessee, Florida, Cobb County, and the cops were happy. It's like, okay, we don't really need to bother with this. I would rather they come through your neighborhood and check, make sure people aren't breaking in your car, instead of, messing around with less than an ounce of marijuana.
Is
And
that still in place to this day?
that's still in place in our office. We have not prosecuted marijuana for 3 years, going on 4 years now. Because
So
Wow.
basically what happens is they're not doing the test for misdemeanor marijuana. You have hundreds of thousands of cases in Gwinnett, excuse me, in Georgia. We would probably have almost 1,000 to 2,000 cases in Gwinnett County on marijuana. You would overwork the GBI. And so
yeah,
they don't test for less ounces of marijuana, less than an ounce. Now, for big amounts, they do, but you would think that you would inundate them to prove that the difference between hemp and marijuana. You would tie up your legal system. And then is it ethical and moral to prosecute these things when you have 17 to 18 states that are making profit? And historically, it has hurt the relationship between minority men by being stopped and people using that as probable cause. And basically, we've increased the relationship between our police and our minority population by not doing that. I've had people come up to me, cops say, "Hey, Mr. Whiteside, thanks. That's a waste of time." And citizens say, "Brian, hey, this is," and a lot of people just call me Brian. People have known me for a long time. I've been here like 30 years. And they're like, "Hey, thanks, Mr. Whiteside. I feel more comfortable about that now. When I see a police officer, I'm not scared." Because a lot of times things were falsified. People say, "I smell marijuana." And then they arrest somebody, no marijuana was in the car. So now that can't be used as a false pretense to
mhm.
arrest people.
So what do you
So
oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, so a lot of people have praised you, but have you gotten any pushback because of your stance on these matters?
Yeah, I get pushed back all the time. People say, "Well, you're going out of your frame. You're not doing what you're supposed to do." But yeah, I am doing what I'm supposed to. I take an oath to protect and to protect the Constitution. It's unconstitutional to prosecute someone without any evidence, and the fact that you're basically trying to incarcerate them and give them a criminal record for something that you can't prove. So I don't really care what they think. I was a police officer for 15 years before I did this, and I was a Gary, Indiana cop. I did an analogy, basically like a SWAT team in progress crime. I tracked down serial killers. I worked just as I'm dressed now, 2 9mm on, shotgun in the car, and that evolved to being an attorney. So I use all that experience about how I treated my citizens when I stopped them, all the inequality I saw when police or how people treated each other, all those things combined. And you can't really care what people think about you. You have to think about the bigger consequences. Are you protecting society? Is this constitutional? What is the impact upon these people's lives? If we continue to wait and think about what people think about us, we'll never make progress as a law-abiding organization. It's what's right. It's not
Yeah.
what they think about us. See, like my father told me that if you're not making somebody mad every day, you're not doing your damn job. Okay. My father was a strategic air command. He was a high school teacher. My mom was a teacher. And they lived their life as like, okay, either you're gonna do this or don't do it. My father had a saying, if you want something, you're gonna go after it. So I try to tell people now, if you want justice, you're gonna have to fight for it because they're taking everything away from you. All these bills that they have saying that they can change the school board to be nonpartisan, those are unconstitutional. There's articles in the Constitution that specifically say that citizens uh, vote for local officials to make local laws, and that's in our Constitution. I recently filed a bill to enforce that, so I'll be asking to go before the federal court to enforce the rule of law in the Georgia Constitution. Every state has a constitution. The Georgia Constitution basically states that local citizens vote for local officials, like your commissioners. Your commissioners should decide whether it's going to be nonpartisan or partisan. And also, when it comes to these districts with these maps, those issues should be put to a referendum so the citizens can make a decision because the Constitution demands that in Georgia.
They should be put through the referendum, but are they going to? Because I think that's the
Well,
question.
they aren't. Well, right now they're not, but on Wednesday we filed a challenge to what they're doing now, and that's part of a challenge to 202. I cited the Constitution. I'll give Derek a copy and email you guys a copy later on. But the whole point about that is there's constitutional statutes and also case law that basically states that local officials make local law. And Republicans continuously talk about locus of control. So whatever they're doing now is unconstitutional. People shouldn't panic because just you take an example of the water bill. They said you can't pass those snacks and water, but they put things on paper, but they're not constitutionally sound. They're scare tactics, intimidation tactics. And so that I simply just said you have to have a criminal intent to be arrested. See, that water bill actually said that a person could be arrested, put in jail up to 12 months with $1,000 fine. But you're making somebody a criminal. But the whole point about that is unconstitutional because for every crime you have to have an intentional act, and for every law that affects a citizen, it has to deal with local control. So I'll tell you what's happening now. It's hard to prove racism because when we talk about this bill, people say, "Oh, that's racist," but you're talking about how are you going to prove that they did a race-based decision? Because they would have to have a video saying, "Oh, we hate these black people, we hate the Hispanic people, we hate Muslims." They're not going to say that, but you can get them on the Constitution because we know that most likely it is race-based, but there's no actual proof unless someone would come out and did what they did back in the 50s, say you can't sit on the bus if you're black. They're smarter than that now. So they just changed the law around. But what you find out is these legislators, they're not lawyers. A lot of them don't even read the Constitution. So we just got to hit them with the Constitution, just like we beat them with the water bill and we do with the marijuana. You look at those things and attack them on a legal basis. So I'm very confident that we're going to beat them on this issue of maps and nonpartisan school boards. And see, the whole point about that is no one should panic about that in Gwinnett County. My opinion is because what you've seen is a lot of people who don't want to live in Gwinnett anymore have already moved out. And those people don't want to live around minorities, and majority of those people are Republicans. So since 2020, since Biden has won, I would predict that, oh gosh, maybe another 20,000 people have left. So I don't think they can win a nonpartisan election.
So, speaking of nonpartisan, about a week or so ago, well, for those of you who are not aware, Solicitor Whiteside is currently up for re-election this year, and he has a Democratic challenger who, uh, who over the weekend, past weekend, was at a Republican breakfast where that challenger stated that they believe that this office should be nonpartisan. Do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I would say, it's just like you have to have a code of conduct. Just like my dad was in the Air Force, my mom was a teacher, and my dad was a teacher. Their code of conduct was to help people. And I think if you're a Democrat, you're supposed to have a code of conduct, first of all. You're supposed to be loyal to your party. And what is really shameful is that 2 days, 3 days prior to this, the Republican platform was enacted to make all the issues of school board, those jobs, to be nonpartisan. So she adapted the Republican Party platform. And then she went to the Republicans at a breakfast and stated, I believe this should be nonpartisan, which basically is disloyal to the Democratic Party. So I would say she was disloyal to the Democratic Party and what we stand for, because we stand for the right of the voter to make a decision. Okay. And she had never stated that the voters should make this decision. She said it should be nonpartisan, which completely agrees with the Republicans. You have to remember, she worked for a Republican, Danny Porter, one of the worst people I think I've ever met in my life. And I tracked down serial killers, okay? I
Wow.
went to armed robberies, and I think Danny Ford is one of the
Pretty
worst
stiff
people
right
I
there,
saw.
Solicitor General. That was
Oh,
Yeah.
he
pretty
was horrible.
stiff.
I mean, he really was. And Patsy Austin Gatson beat him. I asked Patsy, who I've known for 30 years, first thing I came in the office, I said, please run against Danny Porter. He's got to go. Because he historically never prevented a lot of crime. He had no crime prevention programs, no diversion programs. He never tried to help anyone. He would prosecute him. And he lost a lot of cases too. But in regard to her action, you look at her whole platform. She doesn't have a platform. Her platform is I want to help victims. You're supposed to prevent victims. She wasn't at the Confederate statue. She didn't take a point on marijuana. They've never done any type of expungement cases. So you look at the personality of a person. We've done like 3 expungement issues or events where we have actually cleared people's records. But back to that issue, to me, I think you're disloyal to the Democratic Party. Why are you at a Republican Party meeting? Why are you going along with their platform? It's because you work for these Republicans. And see, what happens is, my opinion, you're trying to put a black female out there so you can piggyback off of Stacey and Black Women Magic. But really, you're not magical. You're part of them. If you were magical, you would have fought for black people all the 5 times you were there, or people of color, or did something innovative. But she's basically backed and financed by Republicans. So I really don't think too much of her anyway, because of me. To me, you're a traitor to your party, and you're a traitor to your people. You're really a traitor to America, because the whole thing about our party, we're the party of the little person. We're a party that joined unions, brought unions together, raised salaries. We fight for affordable housing. That's what the Democratic Party is. And see, when you hear someone say, we want to do nonpartisan, then you're really relating to a party that has divided people, that has talked about Asian flu, that supports Donald Trump. You're not taking the Democratic Party line. And my point, she should never even be qualified as a Democrat, because you don't have the Democratic policy, and you stated this opening. And if they do qualify her, that's fine. We're gonna whoop her anyway. So that's no problem. We're gonna beat her bad, because we've done our job. We've shown that we care about, we love people. We supported the Asian community when they were threatened in other counties. I put out a notice that basically said anybody in Gwinnett County would threaten our Asian community, I'm going to recommend you go to jail. When they started harassing the people in Snellville, the black barbers over there, we put out a news release that said that if our minority businesses are threatened, I'm going to recommend 1 year. People on Facebook, oh, it's only a misdemeanor. Every time you write on a building, I can get you for every word on there. I can get you 3, 4, 5 years. So, it's more than misdemeanors. And that stopped. She didn't speak about our black businesses. She didn't help the Muslims, didn't help the Asians, never helped anyone whatsoever. So you look at the character of that person running. And then she said she was conservative. When you're in a fight and somebody's got a knife and trying to cut your throat, you can't fight conservatively. You got to fight with everything you got. And that's what we're doing now. You're fighting for survival. Do you understand this stuff about nonpartisan that she's supporting in these maps? When those maps change, that changes for almost 20 years. That's your grandchildren. That's the representation. That's your schools. Today, they're saying they don't even want to have a mask mandate, that parents should decide. Well, science decides. Parents should be able to opt out. Well, Mr. and Mrs. COVID don't opt out, so why should you be able to opt out? It goes by the science. And see, Mayor Lance Bottom beat Kemp when he said that she couldn't have a mask mandate. See, the law states that local officials can make local decisions according to the diseases in their area. See, all these things are in the Constitution. So we need a Solicitor General that is above and beyond sitting in an office saying, I'm going to prosecute you for throwing garbage. You need one that's highly educated, takes constitutional action, and protects you for a lifetime and for your children. Your children are now protected. The Asian community, we sent a great warning out. There's been no graffiti. There's been no harassment to that black community. because these terrorists are, for the first time in their history, nobody ever told the KKK, if you attack our black population, we will prosecute you, because they would have backed down. Now, I've told everybody in this community, I don't care if you're white or black, I'm going to recommend that you be punished if you try to harm people. We had a white lady, she came out of Publix on 54th Strickland in Lawrenceville. She had Stacey Abrams stickers on her car. A Trump supporter put a Trump sticker on there and waited for her and said, hey, that's the sticker you need. And so basically, she asked him, why did you do that? Because you're supporting Stacey Abrams. She drove away. He followed her for 5 miles. 5 miles through Gwinnett County. She called the police. She went to Lawrenceville Police Department and asked that a report be made. They didn't even make a report because they said it was political. Now, this is somebody who's white. She called me, Mr. Whiteside, this guy followed me. I heard a lot about you. I said, come on in. For the first time in the history, the solicitor's office, we have investigators, and let people know, I appointed the first black police chief ever in Gwinnett County. That's Travis Gatson. In 240 years, Gwinnett never had a black police chief. I supported him and appointed him because he was highly qualified, and the fact that I served with him in law enforcement as a deputy. So we got together and we met with her. And people can't say, Brian, oh, he's just helping with black people. No, because this lady was white. And I said, go get a warrant and go arrest that guy. Go arrest him. Now, Lawrenceville Police Department would not even arrest him. Okay? Wouldn't arrest him and wouldn't get a warrant. We got a warrant, we arrested him, and then what happened was I opted out that case because legally she was part of the Democratic Party also. So I didn't want a conflict. I let somebody else prosecute him, but due to our actions, he was arrested. Now you think about how society is. This is what occurs. Somebody complains, I'm not being treated right. And then these departments, like Tim Wallace, he's been resigned now because he said sexual harassment, so I'm not gonna talk about that. And I know Tim, I liked him, I worked with him as a deputy. He and I are friends, but see, I might be your friend, but you're not doing right. He should have been arrested. We arrested that person. So would she have done that? You can say no, I'll say no. But we enacted justice. That sends a message throughout the community. You haven't seen any action taken against a black people because of their race, any Asians, any Muslims, anybody, or anyone who wants to be safe. So the whole point about that is you look at her character and you look at her disloyalty to the democratic principles. Everything the Democratic Party has done has tried to better someone's life. And what she's doing is allowing them to take control and minimize our accomplishments. Therese Johnson, when she came in, she's under personal attack. They're particularly going after her, trying to take her power away. They just wiped out Marlene Foscue. The 2 days before that, Marlene's commission position was just wiped out. Okay, because they basically put it somewhere else. And so if you're a true Democrat, you would defend the fact that that should have been decided by the citizens for her awesome representation. Marlene Foscue, she helped feed almost 800,000 people. If you add it up during the pandemic, they organized food. They took it out of churches, out of Gwinnett County. People could come during the COVID and pick up free lunches, 3 or 4 of them, pick them up for dinner. Quietly, she did those things with the park department. And see, the park department helped too. So we gotta not say Gwinnett is really racist because the people who were doing this were white. But you've gotta back Marlene, you've gotta back Kirkland because they've done so much. And for her to be disloyal to the creed of America, to me, she's un-American. Because a true American is gonna look out for someone else. And these people who are doing this, they're not Americans, they're worse than the communists that we fought. You know, Strategic Air Command, they stayed in the air for 24 hours a day to deter these Russians and these communists from taking over our country and taking over other countries. And they broke the back of them because they couldn't afford to fly with us. 24 hours a day with nuclear weapons. And we take that same effect. We're always trying to deter people. But to me, I think she's one of the worst persons I've ever heard of, because you don't care about the implications of what your actions are. You're supposed to help these people. You're not supposed to go along with a party line that takes the total power of the voter away. So that's a
I
long
gotta
speech.
I gotta say this. So normally I'm normally I'm doing Good Morning Gwinnett when I'm playing music and doing horoscope. This is a brand new way of starting off my morning, and there have been no words missed here this morning. So
No.
wow, I'm sitting here like I'm in. But you know what? That just goes to show that you're passionate about helping people, and
Yep.
that you're gonna speak your truth, and I really appreciate that. So thank you for just speaking your truth and what you believe in, and that's so
Yes, ma'am.
important. So important. Um, Go ahead, Derek.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree. And so back to your role as solicitor. Uh, what is the best way, or how is the best way someone can reach you or contact your office should they have any concerns or issues that falls under your purview? How would they reach out to you?
Well, they can look at the website. They can look at the website, and then it has all our numbers on there. But me, I usually just give out my cell phone, and people call me all the time on my cell phone, so I can give out my cell phone. And people say, Brian, why are you doing that? Because when I was an attorney, I took like 200 calls, every 3 days. So I can give my number. It's the office number is 770-822-8300. My cell phone is 678-499-6724. And that's even on the social media. I always tell people to call me. I get a lot of complaints about things. So if they need some type of help, give us a call. That's what we're here for.
I gotta tell you, I don't give out my cell phone number to anybody. Like you got my cell phone number, you're special.
Mm.
200 people call me, I would lose my mind. I
Yeah,
would lose my
yeah,
mind. So you have an
that's
election coming up, a re-election, and I normally ask people, why do you want to do this again? But I can tell you're passionate about it, so that's not a question I need to ask. What do you see for the future, moving forward, if you are re-elected to this space,
Well,
to this
what I
seat?
see for the future is a reduction. I think we've already reduced a great deal of crime. We've had less crime in our community. Of course, we had COVID. We do 50,000 cases a year. I see more going out in the community, speaking to young people about, basically values, how to make good decisions. We're trying to expand to the fact that we can actually go out and talk to people, reach and touch people's hearts, and try to be an example for our young people, men and women, because we have a very troubled society. When people are shooting each other in gas stations and fighting and gunplay out here, there's a bigger life to that. So I think people have to basically give these experiences and give them hope that you can do something else instead of violent activity. We have too many people coming to the courthouse for criminal events when you should be going to the administrative side paying the tax bill for your house. So what we need to do is start talking to children when they're young about goals. See, I've always been a self-motivated person because my dad was highly self-motivated. My mom was highly self-motivated. They met in Central State University, historically black college. I was able to go to Purdue, walk on, make a play football there, minor in aerospace engineering, pre-law, all those type of things and opportunities people said I could not do. Uh, I found out that you need to be your own person. I think we need to start teaching our children, believe in yourself and go after your goals. And see, the whole point, I think what's occurring in our society now, we don't have a lot of leadership with our children where they have experienced failure. Just because you fail once doesn't mean you're going to fail all the time. I ran 3 times. My third time I won. This is the third time I won. But I make analogies, sports analogies. When I was a football player, I had 1,000 yards every year. I carried the ball 30 times and might score twice. So I was knocked down 28 times. I had to brush myself up and get up 28 times or 30 times. and get in the end zone. Everybody, oh man, you look really great. But they didn't know about the 28 times you hit me, and I was wondering about myself, could I get back up? So we have to teach our children that you can get hit a lot of times, but you're going to be successful because you keep getting back up. And we need to start addressing these issues of suicide in our young community too, and drugs, because people are turning to drugs because you're depressed. But each and every day, you're not going to be happy. We got to tell people, yeah, depression is a part of life, but you got to push through. You got to look for coping mechanisms, and you have to say, I am somebody. We need to teach our children that you are special. I was taught that you're a king and a queen in a community, especially Black people. I came up during the 70s. A Black woman was a queen. A Black man was a king. We don't need to be fighting each other and shooting each other out here. We need to say, we're the people. We are the people that fought for civil rights. We paved the way for the world. And so we want to go out and teach these kids and say, hey, you are somebody. You come from a race of people that has basically been a symbol for the world. So we have a whole new idea. We're working with Hopewell Church and Popular Hill Church to develop a format how we can help. Hopewell Church is going to have a jobs program where you can start construction jobs and get paid $17 an hour. Waiting to work with Pastor Bishop Shields on that. $17 an hour starting, and then $21 after. I mean, $17 an hour just to get trained. So we're trying to get to that point. Of course, COVID and all those things have stopped that, but I've talked to Bishop Shields about that. I'm working with Pastor Head to do programs with our children to create self-imaging. I think we really need to work on children and tell them, believe in yourself, keep trying. My whole goal when I was a child, I actually was flying airplanes before I was driving a car. At 13, I was flying airplanes. My first goal was to be an astronaut. My backup plan was to be an attorney. So the whole point is I got playing football and things like that, and I was an All-American in football, 1,000-yard rusher, 60-yard dash champ. So I got sidetracked. Plus, my wife, she was really pretty, so I got sidetracked with that too. Because I got married young, high school, and so my backup plan though was be a lawyer. So I try to tell people you need to really set your goals so high, even when you fail, you're still a success. So I didn't make it to space, but I made it to be a lawyer. And so
Right.
you can't be. A lot of people are afraid to say, I want to be this and tell somebody. And I was taught to tell people your goals and force your way through. My dad would say, tell somebody you want to be a lawyer. Tell them you're going to get 1,000 yards. And then when you do that, you're lifting weights, you're running at night, you're doing those type of things. And you don't have to run a 4.3. You can run a 4.5 or 4.6, and you can still do that. You can get a B average. You don't have to have B plus. 3.9, you do 3.5, 3.2. There's always a place for you. We need to tell our children that because there's too much drug use. There's too much suicide. So we have to take people. You don't have to be a superstar. You just have to be a normal person. We need to start telling people normal means getting up, taking a shower, going to work, staying out of trouble. There's a image that normal is being rich and blingy and guns. That's not it. Normal is just having a nice place to stay, maybe a nice relationship with yourself. And then so you can't love another person unless you love yourself. And we need to
Exactly.
teach our children that. Love yourself, respect yourself, and then we're trying to teach children have some private time where you think about your life. Write your life. I was trained to write all your goals down, train who you are, and then you start eliminating people. We need to teach children how to eliminate people from their life too. So that's been a long thought, but I really care about kids. I care about our society. So we're trying to move in that direction. We can always prosecute people, but if you don't want crime in 2030, you're going to kindergarten and working with the school system and saying, this is how you do things. So we're not going to prosecute those people because they have their self-image, they have their goal orientation, and it's been proven, you can look it up, if you write your goals down on paper, not typing them on there, your brain encases those. and it forces you to act. When you say, I'm going to be successful, your brain will keep pushing you to do that. That's been proven. So that's a long story. And as Derek knows, Audrey, you don't ever ask me a question because there's an hour explanation. I'm sorry.
Well, I want to say this. I got to say this because I'm listen. We're live on 5 platforms right now. So the one thing Derek and I are really proud of with this show is that we get to educate people about the political system. So I'm putting it out there because Brian said let the people know we're looking for sponsors for this show so we can
Yeah.
help continue to help bring good people on to educate you about the system. We listen. Politics can be confusing for a lot of people. That's why we enjoy the people that we bring on here. Ryan knows the Constitution. He was sitting there talking about the Constitution. I'm saying to myself, I need to go mentor under him because I
Yeah.
know nothing. I'm ashamed to say it. I know nothing about the Constitution except for the
Mhm.
stuff that I learned on this show here. And so this show is meant to educate you and to inform you so you can make great political decisions that's going to affect your future and the future of your family. So we need sponsors so we can expand the show to television. Right
That's
now
right.
we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. But we want to go further because we know that we have great men and women out there who are serving our communities and they're here to help educate us and get us the things that we need in our community. So I'm putting it out there. I ain't listen, Derek, I ain't ashamed. Brian said put it out
Yes,
there. I
ma'am.
mean,
I'm with
Yeah,
you.
I think you're right
push
because see,
through
I'm
it.
telling you what's happening now. I think you're right because see, we're working with the African community, the Muslim community, the Asian community, the white community, and these type of programs are important. And we need to. I'm going to reach out and ask them to start sponsoring these you all and these organizations because this type of information is basically going to inform the community because there's no informational systems that really are reaching local Gwinnett community. And like you said about the Constitution, they get away with things because people don't know what politically is going on out here. So you have people like in Congress, you start watching Congress, like these people have been in office for 35 years, but yet nothing's actually changed in America. And you talk about Carolyn Bordeaux, she says she's conservative. How can you be conservative when people are taking all your rights away? She hasn't done one thing to challenge these bills. Now, Donna McLeod is running against her, and Lucy McBath, they're all running against each other. But my whole point about it, if you're looking for change, it's going to be Donna McLeod. And we need to have these type of programs. They need to be broadcast to the Asian, the Muslim community. They need to be in every language because it concerns them too, because they wiped out like 3 Asian representatives,
Mhm.
1 Muslim representative. So this program is important. So I'm going to reach out to the Asian community, the Muslim community, and our actual African community and our Caribbean community because I've watched you and Derek, and you guys do a lot of good. But see, what they're scared of, if we combine all the races, colors, and creeds together, we're not a minority. We're the majority.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
are the majority of America. We built America. And it's just a few people who are trying to empower themselves illegally against the Constitution. And like I say, sparks are going to hit because we make an announcement on Monday about this law, and I'm not afraid to take them on. I remember as a little boy, Martin Luther King said, "I may not make it to the mountaintop, but you will."
Let's get to the other side. Yeah.
That's right. So we've got to fight together. We've got to expand these type of programs in each and every language. I met with the Asian community, and they're like, "Wow, I didn't even know they had taken our right." I told them, "Do you know they wiped out 3 Asian communities?" I said, "When they come for you, they come for all of us.
Yeah.
They want they want white supremacist control, and that's my opinion. You can't be a true American if you're going to isolate the rights of the people. And I'm prepared to fight them, but we need to get together and start meeting with other communities and show these type of programs. And they need to bring their programs together. And you need to do it before May because you got Herschel Walker running. I mean, he can run a football, but
Mm,
I wouldn't. Yeah, he can run a football, but I wouldn't want him to run my life.
mm-mm.
Right. I mean, he lives in
Right.
Texas anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, before we wrap it up, did we hear you endorse someone for Congress?
Yeah, I endorse Donna McLeod, and I think she's the best person because Donna actually has had actions that have helped. She supported the school board. I didn't see Carol Bordeaux supporting the school board. I didn't see Lucy McBath supporting our school board. I haven't seen either one of them really in Gwinnett, unless they're looking for election, votes. And in regard to protection of everyone, white or black, Donna McLeod came out and protected the white lady that was harassed. She basically called me and said, "You need to take action." Donna called me and informed me that the school board was under attack. There were active threats in emails going to Ms. Watkins, to Therese. They're getting threatening calls. Donna said, "You're the Solicitor General. What are you going to do?" Well, when Donna McLeod calls, Brian is going to take action, or anyone calls me. So we need a person that is going to protect your children and loves your children. So we need people that are in Gwinnett County all the time. I don't see Lucy McBath here. I have been 30 years here. I started here as a Gwinnett County deputy sheriff, okay? I have not seen her. We need people in our neighborhoods. I don't see Carolyn Bordeaux. And you look at talking about the construction bill. Well, who's out there doing the construction? It's not you. We haven't seen that enacted yet. We need a person that's going to do everything to protect us for 20 years. Building those roads is all good, but we need the right to vote. We need the right to have protection of our children in pandemics, not violation of laws saying people can opt out of a disease. That's the dumbest. What you saying? "Oh, I'm gonna opt out of a disease." Well, you're not going to opt out. So we need people with compassion that have been fighting here continuously. Local officials. I don't even see Carolyn Bordeaux as being local. I see her being in Washington raising a lot of money. And I don't have anything bad to say about Lucy McBath, is that you can look at their records and they really haven't accomplished anything. When you look at Donna McLeod, she helped save the school board and she helped save people on other issues. And she's continuously fighting for our community.
Well, this has been an explosive way to start my day. I normally start out with the horoscopes, and I will be starting with the horoscopes in about 27 minutes. So stay tuned for that, for the Good Morning Gwinnett show. Solicitor General, thank you so much for just being passionate about our community and taking the time to spend. I know we had a rough start because we've been trying to do this Sunday, but I really appreciate you taking the time to spend some time with us. And I look forward to sitting down with you and seeing how we can expand this show across all of those communities. This is a community show where we educate people about their rights. And so thank you for even making that suggestion. So before we wrap, any closing remarks before we say goodbye?
No, I just think everything's an example, everything's a learning experience. I think just like we had our rough starts, that's just how life is, and then you're in the end zone. I thought this was a great opportunity, and I hope our people do vote for me. I've done everything I can to protect them and protect society, and actually protect this America, to lead by example. And it wasn't purposeful. I never thought I would have to take this type of action when I got in here, but I saw so many inequalities, and I knew the law, and I took action right away to make sure your children, your grandchildren, and you would not be abused and not be treated as a second-class citizen. I'm all about you being a first-class person, never thinking that you should be demeaned or that your rights will be taken. And thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. And Audrey, go ahead with your closing. I like how she closed out her shows.
So listen, guys, thank you again for listening. You could have been anywhere this morning, but you spent the last 53 minutes with myself, Derek J. Wilson, and our Solicitor General, Brian Whiteside. Listen, that's his website. If you like what he said, if you support his issues, if you feel his passion, that is his website. Go check him out, find out more about him, and make sure to show up at the polls, because we have somebody that will sue somebody for us, but he's not afraid to sue. So listen, go ahead and do that. Thank you again, Solicitor General. Listen, we'll be back again next Sunday, same bad time, same bad place. I know it's Thursday. I haven't lost it. This is special, but we'll be back on Sunday. And you want to tune in Sunday, because the person that he said is, I don't know, he said some pretty choice words about the person that's coming up on Sunday.
Disloyal to the Democratic Party.
Disloyal to the Democratic Party. She'll be here on Sunday at 1 p.m. So join us live. We'll be here. Thanks again, Brian. Thanks, Derek. Till next time, my friends. Until next time, make it a great day. Bye, y'all.
You've been listening to Popcorn in Politics. What's the real deal? hosted by Audrey Bell Kearney and Derek J. Wilson. Be sure to subscribe to the show and share it with your family and friends. To support the show, visit us on the web at www.popcornandpolitics.com. Connect with us on Facebook at Progressive Popcorn and on Instagram at Popcorn Politics Podcast.